Hi, my name's Julie Holmwood. Welcome to another edition of the Exquisitely Human podcast, brought to you by the lovely team at Career J. Today, I'm absolutely delighted to be speaking to Damien Quinn. Damien, tell me something about yourself.
Hi, Julie. My name's Damien, and thanks for inviting me onto the show. I've seen a couple of clips there of different people that were on it, and it was really, really interesting. So glad to get the opportunity to talk to you. So basically, I grew up in the UK and I moved back to Ireland. So I was an Irish lad growing up in the UK. And when I moved back here, then I was an English teen growing up in Ireland. So never felt like I fitted in anywhere. So yeah, so that's a bit of the background and where I'm from, and yeah.
I was going to say you haven't got a very strong English accent.
Yeah, the Mancunian has gone out of me now. A couple of words you'll hear a little bit of a twang, but we moved back to Ireland in 1997, so I've definitely picked up the lingo back here.
You sound very native to me.
Very
From
native.
my English roots, you sound very native. So, what kind of complications did you experience moving country at that particular stage in your adolescence?
Well, interestingly, like in England, I was kind of shy and geeky, and I was really into school and very quiet, kept to myself kind of thing, and done really, really well, and had good plans going forward for education, anyways. But then when I came back to Ireland, I found it really, really difficult because Ireland does have a higher level of education, and I was lost really. Like when I made the move up back here with my mother and my brothers. So I struggled with education, then started getting into a bit of trouble and all that kind of thing. Found drugs, and drugs then became the only thing I was interested in for a very long time. Like so. So yeah, the change was a massive change at a bad age and that type of thing, out of our control. And I suppose my behavior then kind of was a reaction to that. So yeah.
So would you say, I know this is a very personal question, but would you say that you actually became an addict? You said drugs were the only thing on your mind.
100%, yeah. I suppose I'm an addict anyways. Like, if anything I like doing, I like to do it a lot. And that could be like what I've done in recent years anyways, is I've switched addiction to substances, to addiction to education, addiction to achievements, addiction to, women, my partner, like all that kind of stuff. Like you find yourself you'll find yourself addicted to anything if you have an addictive nature. So, but I've swapped all the bad stuff for really, really good and positive stuff. So, but yeah,
That's a really good. That's that's a really good step change and a big admission. So where did the drugs? So addicted to drugs. Where did that take you? Where did that lead?
well, it started really. I remember the first day I took it. I knew full well I shouldn't be taking it, but I still went ahead with it anyhow, and I just fell in love with that feeling, of getting out of the situation I was in. So, say the circumstances that we found ourselves in weren't very affluent, let's say. It was me and a younger brother. The youngest brother had gone back with dad, but there was only the two of us at a very young age. And we fell in with people that were heavily involved in that lifestyle, and we were attracted to that lifestyle. So, I in particular, like I'll tell my story, I can't tell anybody else's, but the it led to like kind of drug dealing and all that kind of stuff, and ultimately then to prison. So yeah, so like they'd glamorize drug use and the life of drugs all over these programs and stuff like that. But I can assure you that that lifestyle took me to some very, very, very dark and lonely places, and it was a miserable existence in the end, really, is what it was.
So do you stop? I mean, I read somewhere that when you take drugs, the first time you feel really good and you feel really great, and maybe the second or third time, but then after that, you're taking drugs just to feel normal. Was that your experience?
Yeah, just to socialize. Like, in fact, you probably you feel like you can't socialize without them. They go hand in hand, just like somebody going out for a drink. you know, it's the same thing. You're going out to get drunk, kind of thing, or whatever. Same with drugs, like you take them to go out. You wouldn't go out. You weren't going out unless you had them, kind of thing. But for me, like I spent a year every day of the week taking ecstasy just before Christmas of the millennium. I was 6.5 stone weight the Christmas of the millennium, and I collapsed after taking some cocaine that came straight from the jungle. This stuff was yellow, like you could bounce it off a table there and it wouldn't break. Like, you know, we were putting into microwaves to knock lines out of it, kind of thing. And I actually burst the blood vessel in my nose and collapsed
Wow.
in a drug dealer's party. And when I came round, then he was standing over me with a meat cleaver, saying, "I better not tell anybody I was in his house." So, yeah. So they're the types of experiences I found myself in.
Wow.
Yeah, mad stuff, absolutely mad stuff. But do not miss that lifestyle one bit. And anybody that would be kind of toying with the idea or kind of experimenting with drugs, take my word for it, knock them on the head as soon as you can, because there is nothing but misery if you get caught up in it.
So you never now that you're clean, you never ever miss that high. You never think, oh, I just have one
No,
high,
because
one pill or whatever it may
no,
be.
because what happened with me and my drug use is it led to many rock bottoms. The last rock bottom was when I was standing in everything I owned, nobody to ring, all that kind of stuff, on a prison wing, and all I had was the clothes on my back to my name. I had nothing going for me, and I just said, you know what, there's more to life than this. So in prison, I worked towards getting an education and making a plan for getting out and all that kind of thing. And the intention was to hit the ground running with all these new qualifications that I got inside. You know, I'd done really, really well in there. But what happened then was I was getting out then and I was labeled, you know, an ex-offender. So when I got out of prison is when the punishment actually began, you know, because I knew I was going to prison, and in prison you're encouraged to do well, and I was doing well, and I kind of stepped up into all these enhanced regimes, and you know, I minded myself, and I was really, really positive getting out. But then when I got out, then I was an ex-offender, you know.
How long were you in prison for, Damien, if you don't mind me asking?
3 years.
Wow, so quite a long time, a serious chunk of your life, 3 years.
Yeah, and I missed out on, like, I suppose my son's early years as well. I have a son there. He'll be 20 in December, so I missed out on his first days of school. You know, all that kind of stuff, and should have been there for him and all that kind of thing. And like, look, we're lucky we have a good relationship today and all that stuff. But like, yeah, I missed out on quite a bit. A lot can actually change in 3 years. You know, you think people are in the same situation you were in when you went in, kind of thing, but they're not. Like, they've moved on, their lives have changed, they're doing different things, different jobs, different friends, all that kind of stuff, and a bit of an adjustment period. Then it really,
Yeah.
it doesn't. When you say it, it doesn't sound like a long time, but it was. It was a few years. So yeah.
So do you think, I don't want to obviously go down to the rabbit hole of the prison system, but do you think prison actually helped you? Is that what got you clean? What got you straight?
Prison helped me get educated. Like, I knew going to prison, like that was a possibility, and I made arrangements then to get straight into the education unit and into the work programs straight away. Like, and I knew that I could. The way I rationalized it in my head was 3 years for college, so I'm going to do 3 years college in prison. You know, while I'm covered, say, for roof over the head, you know, food in the belly, all that kind of stuff, security, I can concentrate on education rather than being concerned about not being able to afford to go outside, you know. So actually, prison in that sense was very, very good. Like, and I actually do have some good memories from in there as well, like with some decent, ordinary people, like, you know, because ultimately people in prison are generally nice people. They just make some stupid mistakes or terrible mistakes in the heat of a moment or that type of thing. So yeah, you'd find all types of down to earth people in there that just did some stupid things, you know. So, but we had some fun times, and we all actually, interestingly, a lot of them did the same thing as I did, you know, made plans for the future and all that kind of thing. And unfortunately, because of all of the barriers that pop up, some of them couldn't get over them barriers, and some of them are no longer with us. Some of them are right back to where they started. And these people had bags and bags of potential. They had the big, beautiful plans for the future. They wanted to make amends, you know, they wanted to rebuild their lives, get their family back, all that type of thing, and just couldn't do it because the barriers were far too high, you know, to.
What kind of barriers? What barriers are you talking about?
Well, when you go for when you go for a house here in Ireland, like the councils, Garda vetting will apply. If you're going for education, Garda vetting, jobs, Garda vetting, volunteering, Garda vetting, coaching, Garda vetting, get insurance for your car, Garda vetting, start your own business, Garda vetting, leave the country, Garda vetting, you know. So if you have a negative background, let's say, or these labels, as I do call them, they are going to prevent you from securing opportunity in many instances, you know, and they're the barriers I'm talking about, you know. Like the reality is that the three things was key to me changing or not going backwards. Like I couldn't deal with all the barriers when I first got out, so I ended up going backwards. You know, I couldn't get on anywhere. But what happened then was I eventually, when I came around to myself, I secured a house, I secured education, and then I secured employment, and it's been onwards and upwards since there. Like, you know, but until that is done, them three building blocks, home, education, or employment, are kind of meshed. You know, you're on a circular journey. Like 100%. If I wasn't kind of, if I didn't find my feet, I would have been back in prison. I don't doubt that for a second, because it's really, really hard to scrape a living off this rock here in Ireland as it is. But then when you've got labels that are frowned upon on top of that, then it's even more so, a lot more so.
Did you experience a lot of bias then? It sounded like.
Yeah. So if I couldn't imagine how many no's I've got if I was to try and count them all up. I'd have a ton of them, like. But what happened in the end was I gave up looking for work. I went back home to where my family were, and people that mattered to me became accountable around my behavior to them, you know, not wanting to put them through it again. And then I came across a third level course, and that was something to fill my day, you know. It was business and community development, and I joined because I'd done really well with business studies in prison, and then I found out about community development and fell in love with that then. So that's what led me to where I'm working today, kind of thing. But the whole piece then was once I started the educational course, I got a job in a distribution company as well, because I could say on my CV that I was in third level education. Now, I didn't have to do any vetting process for the job because it was through a friend covering, and then all of a sudden I was employed then and all that kind of stuff. So I spent a couple of years then working for that company, and I continued my education up to an honours degree in business and community development as well. And as I said, I fell in love with the community development side of things, so I started looking for work. Same old story. This is 8 or 9 years later, like, you know, convictions kept getting in the way. At this stage, I was a manager of a distribution company, an overnight distribution company, managing €1 million worth of freight every night of the week. And I had an honours degree secured. So I was kind of, I didn't give up. Like, I was just going to walk away from education at that time, because I'd spent thousands on an education I couldn't use anywhere, you know. So I was kind of getting really, really disheartened. But I went to one last open day for a course in cooperatives and social enterprise. It was a master's degree in cooperatives and social enterprise. And I heard a story about a lady called Siobhan Cafferty, who wrote a paper called A New Way Forward. And it was about integrating violent ex-offenders back into the workforce. So when I heard that, then I said, I need to meet her and touch base with her and tell her what it's really like. And I did. And I've been linked in with her now ever since. And I completed that master's degree, and then after the distribution company, I went working in an auctioneers for a while, and now today I'm working in a local development company called Galway Rural Development under the Social Inclusion Community Activation Programme. And basically, what the role involves is supporting people that find themselves marginalised in whatever way to access education and employment opportunities. And I've started up my own social enterprise as well. So yeah,
You're a busy guy, Damien. Really busy guy.
busy guy. Yeah. So the social enterprise I've started up is kind of like a new communication. So basically, all we get in a disclosure process is a load of historical dates, sentences, and convictions. And that document, it doesn't allow for any change. It doesn't allow for the improvements in our circumstances since that time. So I have been working on a project which uses recognition of prior learning to map the journey to change, and then to be passed over to the criminal justice sector to be assessed and then validated, and ultimately then certified that at this current point in time, there is evidence of commitment to change here, and this individual has earned a chance to start again. So it's an additional communication that looks at all of the strengths that we build up after coming into into contact with the criminal justice system. So most recently, I was awarded seed funding through Social Entrepreneurs Ireland. They're an amazing organisation. I was on their Action Lab, and I was on their Ideas Academy to begin with. And they supported us in organising a website and developing our internship programme. Additionally, I've been working with Social Impact Ireland on their Spring Incubator programme, and we are kind of working out our pitch and all that kind of stuff to get additional support from corporates and those types of organisations. And most recently, we got funding from the Department of Justice under Kickstart for a feasibility study. So it comes from the Dormant Accounts Funds, and it's administered by Pubble, and it's both Department of Justice and probation funding. So what we have is we have a pot of money to go to procurement to get a bit of funding to take a look at the idea, test it for viability, credibility, all that type of thing. And then hopefully then we'll be up and running off and away in Ireland, and then going over to the UK and spreading our wings over there too. So
wow, sounds. So if you'd had your system when you came out of jail, do you think you would have found it much easier to get into housing, a job?
100%, yeah. So they have had, they've made improvements since my time. So currently now they have an integrated sentence management program in prison. So you have an interview with an ISM officer. They'll tell you how you can spend your time, what's available to you, counseling, educational courses, workshop programs, drug awareness, all that type of thing. They tell you that's available to you, and then you make a plan on your induction to spend your time wisely. So you see through that then with your time,
On your induction into prison, that is. When you go in, yeah.
Here in Ireland, yeah. So that's a new thing that's in place. And then you have your community return scheme. So you've got all of these kind of enhanced regimes and stuff like that as well. But when you get out the gate, then none of that matters, all that work, it doesn't count for anything because you're getting out fresh out of jail. I got out of jail last week. I have no fixed abode or blah blah blah. It's like you're so all of that body of work then becomes, it doesn't have any value because you have this label then that's makes you look really really bad. But inside you have all that positive work that makes you look really really good. So I often say it. I get out on the same footing as somebody that fought their way through their sentence, or that didn't cooperate, all that kind of stuff with the regimes and that type of thing. You're getting out on the same footing. You might have spent your time well. This person spent their time badly. Yeah. You're both getting out with the same label.
Sounds crazy. And also, if you don't mind me asking, how old were you when you came out of prison?
So I was 26.
26, and so that. I'm an ex-offender, that stays with you forever? Or when an employer asks you to declare, Is there a time period where you don't have to declare that anymore, or do you have to declare that for life?
In Ireland, they have the Spent Convictions Act, okay, and that only applies if you've got like a driving offence or a public order, just one. If you've
Right.
anything more than that, you'll have to declare all your convictions for the rest of your life. You
So
have to,
even though you were 23 when you went to jail,
yeah,
which is really young, isn't it? 23.
yeah.
So you're 23 when you went to jail, but potentially that impacts your career for the next 40, 45, 50 years.
Yeah, so I've had to declare it here and work and everything, everywhere I go. So I couldn't get work. Like when I was moving from the distribution company over to another job, the auctioneer now that took me on never asked me the question about Garda vetting, because actually I was the only man that applied. So he never thought to ask the women, had they any criminal convictions, you know. You can see why, but then he never asked me because he didn't ask them kind of thing. But he did. He actually went away and Googled me the first week I was away, and a load of stuff came up about drugs and fighting and that type of thing, and he pulled me up on it. And all he said was, "Look," he said, "What's this about?" I said, "That's only a part of my story." I said, "I'll tell you the rest." And I told him everything, and he said, "You know what?" He said, "Fair play to you for being upfront and honest." He said, "I'm just letting you know I know." And he said, "We all have things from our past that we're not very proud of, and we'd like to move on from." So he said, "You seem to know what you're doing, so we'll give it a go." And I worked with him for 4 years.
Wow.
Same man came on podcasts with the Department of Justice, probation, all these different organizations. Actually, the national news came out to the office one day and done like a bit of a shot on the day the Working to Change social enterprise and employment strategy was launched by the department. So Pat was on talking on the news, and I was as well, about kind of the importance of securing employment when you're trying to move away from offending behavior. Like I say it all the time, like it's very unlikely somebody that isn't actively trying to change the circumstances that prevail. It's very unlikely that they would be out there knocking on your door if they weren't looking to change their life. You know, they're not going to be looking for work off you if they're going to continue doing what they were doing. You know, they're knocking on your door looking for work because they want to change. They want to change the circumstances that prevailed in their lives. Now, look, in fairness, there is some crimes that are inexcusable, unforgivable, all that kind of thing as well. And I totally acknowledge that. And things like this isn't an opportunity to excuse criminal behavior. You know, I know what I was up to was wrong, and I accepted that and put my hands up. But the point I'm trying to get to is that for the most part, the people that are a risk, you know, a real risk to everybody, including themselves, there's very few of them in prison. You know, they're a very small population that keep to themselves. But for the most part, the 98% of the population, they're just people that were products of the society they were surrounded by. You know, when you look at offending behavior, they come from, a lot of the offending behavior happens in the most marginalized communities across the country, like, you know. So it's yeah, so a lot of people just get caught up in the overreach of the worst case scenario. But a lot of them same people would be horrified if anybody categorized them as a risk to children or vulnerable adults. I certainly would be anyways, you know. But that's what the law is there to protect, anybody that has the capacity to endanger children and vulnerable adults. So it gets skewed in different types of employment opportunities. I'll give you an example. One time I went for a job in a car part company, working nights. So straight off the bat, it was highly unlikely I was going to come into contact with children and vulnerable adults working at nighttime on a factory floor, and cameras everywhere, this type of thing. And the job application said, no training necessary. You know, training will be provided. And then we passed the aptitude test. We come back another day and we pass the fitness test, pass everything. But then the last question, do you have any criminal convictions? I say, yes, I have. And that's the end of it then. Don't hear from them again. You know, so like, and in fairness, like, if that was a job, say, going driving an ice cream van, and I had sex offenses, and fair enough, but like the offenses I went to prison for are glamorized in other parts of the world. You know, you have the Mike Tysons and the Nate Diaz's of the world selling and smoking weed and fighting. That's pretty much what I went to prison for. It's just illegal here.
It's just, yeah, it's such a difficult thing, isn't it? I think we all did things when we were young that we probably wouldn't do now.
No.
Things that you do when you don't know better, or you think you know everything and you think you know better. You
Yeah.
kind of do something, and for some people it has consequences and other people get away with it. And it's a really scary idea to think that your misspent late teens, early
Yeah.
20s youth penalizes you for the rest of your life.
Yeah, they say that quite often, like up to the age of 25. Anything over the age of 25, then men are expected to have a small bit of maturity. I don't think we'll ever mature, to tell the truth. But yeah, we kind of our cognitive abilities improve, let's say, and we should certainly have a good handle on right from wrong by the age of 25. But yeah, the whole piece that you'll be forever labeled is something that bothers me, and that's why I've kind of worked on this whole social enterprise project, because I don't believe I do believe there should be an end date on any punishment. The punishment, like if it's a case that I often question the relevance of prison, because, like I say all the time, prison was actually the good bit for me when I came into contact with the criminal justice system, because I could escape from the madness I was living at the time.
Yeah.
Anyways, I was safe and secure in there. I could mind myself. Everybody that cared about me knew I was in there out of the way and I wasn't bothering anyone, kind of thing. And it was peace of mind for them too. But it was an opportunity as well to become educated and all that type of thing. It's the piece then that afterwards, the punishment in the community, when you're trying your best, you're trying to do all the right things, and you keep getting told no. Now that is the worst part of coming into the contact with the criminal justice system, because after you do so well and you rack up a lot of achievements and all that kind of stuff, and you're still being told no all the time, it is extremely demotivating. It's hard to stay the course, and you can see why people end up back in prison. Because, well, like, there was times there I often said to myself, do you know what, keep your normal life. It's just too hard to live. You're making it too hard. And I didn't. I stuck with it, but there was days when I was really disillusioned with, all of the hoops I had to jump through to kind of be recognized as a fully participating member of society.
You've done so well, Damien. You should be really proud of yourself.
Thank you.
I think you're an amazing person, and obviously an amazing asset to other people that have been through not just prison but other situations where you're trying to support people to to be able to move on and not be doing today something that they were recognized for doing 10, 20, 30 years ago even.
Yeah.
To be allowed to actually grow up, move on, say that's all behind me now.
Yeah, well, that's my new addiction. My new addiction is actually helping others, because I know I know how hard it is, and it really, really bothers me to think anybody would be feeling the way I was feeling. Anyways, knowing full well that I've done all the right things and not being able to get on with it. It bothers me to think that somebody else would be feeling like that. So that's what I do every day, all day, every day, is put myself out there to help people. Whatever they're going through, whatever part of the journey they're on, I'm there. And like, feel free to share my contact details with anybody as well, if I can be of help to them.
That's
That's
amazing.
what I'm all about. That's what I'm all about, and that's all that really matters to me, is helping other people. So,
A wonderful human being. Just one final question. What would you say that it means to be exquisitely human?
exquisitely human is to be culturally intelligent. That's what it means to be exquisitely human. Culturally intelligent, open to learning and receiving new people and new ways of doing things, because the learning from different people I've experienced down through the years has been second to none. And it's, you know, I actually gravitate to people with different backgrounds, you know, wherever they're from and that, because I'm just curious. And so, yeah, that's another key ingredient. Be curious, because you learn an awful lot from it. So, yeah.
Amazing. It's been fantastic to talk to you today, Damien. Thank you so much. If anyone wants signposting to Damien, please get in touch with me. As I said to you, thank you very much, Damien Quinn. I'm Julie Holmwood. This has been the Exquisitely Human podcast, brought to you by the people at careerj.com. Look forward to catching you on another episode.
Thank you, Julie.